culmination of the Phyrexian story arc, we saw many Planeswalkers be desparked. The great unmending happened, or remending, or... Okay, that's my terms, not theirs, let's not use that. But people lost their sparks. We saw both in the storyline episodes that were on the main hub, on the main website, as well as desparked versions of these characters in Aftermath, the one bit of actual story element we saw with like Nissa being desparked, for example. The vast majority of Planeswalkers across the planes no longer have a spark. And then at MagicCon Barcelona, Mark Rosewater said a really interesting thing that is now official. We've seen it with the upcoming Wilds of Eldraine. There'll be one Planeswalker per set total. One physical Planeswalker card. This has a lot of ramifications for Magic, but I also think it's really interesting to see the transformation of Planeswalker from the archetypal, the forefront, the marketing lead of the brand, if you will, to then them being not sidelined, but reduced in the overall visibility of Magic. All that and more in today's video. But first, this video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, so use the link in the description below or the code KENOBI at checkout to get 5% off your order and to help support the show. And I'm streaming twice a month on Whatnot. Whatnot is eBay meets Twitch. Those are my words, not theirs. So I don't know if in a sponsor spot I should mention other companies. Maybe I should stop doing that. Either way, you can buy and sell things live on Whatnot, and I'm selling some bits and bobs every single month, and I'm giving stuff away. So if you're on the app watching my stream, just by virtue of being there, you can enter to win shit like boosties. I'm giving away boosties. I've got 3 dates this month that you can come and watch, hang out, talk about Magic, win some stuff, or buy some bits and bobs, buy some singles that I've got for sale as well, and you can get £10 off your first purchase using the link in the description below, and it supports the show. Anyway, Planeswalkers. We know that in Wilds of Eldraine, we're getting one singular Planeswalker. We're getting Ashiok, and no other. There will be Planeswalker characters, both Will and Rowan. The Planeswalker twins are in the set, or should I say formerly Planeswalker characters. They can no longer Planeswalk. They are now stuck using their normal feet instead of teleporting between planes. I realise that you probably use your normal feet in Planeswalking, that's why I stumbled there. This doesn't mean that characters can't move between planes. The core part of the new storyline, the Omen Path storyline, is that there will be recurring characters that are moving between the planes. In Wilds of Eldraine, they introduced a character called Kellen, who is an adventurer who does not originate from Eldraine itself. The exact plane they originate from, I'm not 100% sure, and I can't remember. I think the story article just launched as I'm recording this, so someone in the comment section can tell us where Kellen is from, because I don't want to go look it up. But Kellen is a character, a wandering knight, an adventurer from another plane, and we're going to see this much more going forward. I don't remember, because it was a week ago and I've had COVID since, but if you know where Tappion's original plane is, put it in the comment section below. Several people are going to get this wrong, and then there's going to be lots of misinformation, my favourite kind of information. They are able to traverse the planes and move between them via omen paths, like portals or tunnels left behind by the Realmbreaker and in the aftermath of the attempted invasion by the Phyrexians at the end of the Phyrexian War. And there'll be multiple of these characters. It's kind of like how in the original Magic storylines, I say original, in the middling Magic storylines of the Weatherlight Saga and similar, we had a ship that could travel between planes, and Gerard and Hannah and Jehoiva were all on that, traveling between planes together. Kind of like a little starship crew. Kind of loved it. That's why I've got a Weatherlight tattooed on my arm. And for years I've been saying they should use that idea. I once used to wax lyrical about how I want them to somehow open up realms at the culmination of a story, or open up the planar portals to have like the Boros Legion walk through and defend against the Eldrazi or the Phyrexians or whatever. So we get like a real epic confrontation. We kind of had that in March of the Machines with Teferi come back with the Knights and stuff, but it's cool that we're going to see a bit more of that going forward. Something that I've wanted to see for a long time. So the original point is there is now only one Planeswalker in the Wilds of Eldraine, which is going to be Ashiok, and then in Ixalan we'll get one Planeswalker again. I believe they've already said that Huatli is not that Planeswalker. She's in the set, but she's disparked. Now, firstly, I think it's wonderful that we're getting some real-world payoff, like a movement and a transition in story that means that the events at the end of War of the Spark, sorry, War of the Spark didn't matter as much. The events at the end of March of the Machines actually mattered, because the ending of that story, at the time, I've said it and many have, it felt like a bit of a wet fart. Aftermath really did suck, as I said, and as I showing the Aftermath. This whole Aftermath period now, where we go across the plains and find out that Will and Rowan's parents, the Kenrith, the King and Queen of Eldraine, are dead, and so on, is a lot more interesting in terms of narrative payoff. But beyond that, it marks this really interesting point and transition point for Magic, not only as a story and canonical thing to be interested in, but also Magic as a brand and as a intellectual property. Jace, Chandra, Ajani, Liliana, and Garrick are the original Lorwyn 5, the iconic Planeswalkers, easily the most iconic of the Planeswalkers in Magic, perhaps joined by a few others, Teferi, Khan, Nico Bolas, and similar. These were brought in during Lorwyn as a way to give Magic some more of a consistent main character cast. These characters were utilised throughout the storylines of Magic for the best part of the last decade and a half, and they've been used to create a super team like the Gatewatch, for example, that people kind of got fatigued with. They've used a lot of the tropes of superhero storytelling in many ways. Each character is archetypal, they have strong, powerful silhouettes, they're colour-coded quite often, and their powers are usually kind of simplistic in terms of being able to understand what they do. Garrick, big, strong, summons beasts. Liliana, necromancer. Chandra, fire. Jace isn't quite water, but he's illusionary mind magic. They're all quite simplified. And over time, as new supporting casts of Planeswalkers were introduced, they've all had slightly more elaborate, slightly more interesting power sets. I don't think all of them are simplistic in a bad way. I think Planeswalkers by design are trying to evoke a quick to understand and quick to register stylistic power set, move set, and like attitude and things like that. They are fighting game characters, they're comic book characters. And again, that's not a value judgment on their designs. I think it's by design and it's useful in terms of giving a game like Magic main character to resonate with. But in that time, as Planeswalkers took over and became a mainstay of Magic, and a lot of boomers like myself didn't like the gameplay around their game pieces, they often used to dominate games of Magic. I mean, creatures and spells have been power crept in the last 2 to 5 years so badly that that's not the case anymore. And a lot of Planeswalkers that have come out since, in like uncommon and rare slots, have been terrible. That's another issue with the Planeswalker problem. How much space is there to explore with the Planeswalker? How do they keep making them without making them boring, and so on? But Planeswalkers had a lot of issues inherent to them that made boomers like me complain. But over time, Magic has changed. Not only the power creeping of creatures and spells that aren't Planeswalkers, for example, to the point that most Planeswalkers aren't good enough anymore. Like Liliana of the Veil, one of the most powerful Planeswalkers of all time. A 3-mana powerhouse edict that can also attack the opponent's hand, push you to top decking so your more powerful spells in a better mid-range deck is going to win out over there. Is the quintessential Jund Planeswalker. She sees virtually no play in Eternal formats anymore. She's not good enough for Modern. And that's not because other Planeswalkers have pushed her out, it's because the power creep designs of creatures, for example, the evoke cycle of elementals. But today's video is not about power creep. Today's video is about the changing brand strategy of Magic, because in the time since Planeswalkers were introduced to Magic, we've had a seismic shift in how Magic is played and perceived by new players. We've had the growth and the adoption, mass adoption of Commander. For the longest time, I just assumed that Planeswalkers would become playable as Commanders in Commander, simply to give them more of a focal point, or more of a at the forefront of new and casual players' time of the game. But now, with the reduction of Planeswalkers in both the story and within like the mechanical space of each set, I don't think that's ever going to happen. They toyed with some Planeswalkers being playable as your commander in the past, and they never really went back to that well. Well, we had Commodore Gruff in the latest Commander Master set, I guess, but that's an outlier. I don't think we're ever going to see any Planeswalker be your commander anytime soon, because it doesn't really fit with their strategy going forward. Legendary creatures are the new Planeswalkers. There's not going to be more of them. I think Mark did say last year in a Blogger post that they're going to try and do less, because they've done probably too many in the last couple of years. The legendary creature count has absolutely exploded. And the reason it has done so, and the reason so many sets focus on legendary creatures, is because they can front your commander deck. A legendary creature being revealed will often be more exciting than a Planeswalker. Planeswalkers have a bit more of an interesting mechanical identity, and being able to come with 3 or 4 spells, or 5 spells if they have a passive ability as well. Planeswalkers kind of got out of hand, right? But mechanically, legendary creatures are a lot more simple, but there's a lot more space to explore them in casual play, because they can front and be at the forefront of your commander deck. Commander, for better or for worse, has transformed how Magic is played, how it's perceived, how it's interacted with. People get much more excited about a new legendary creature they can build around than they do a Planeswalker. It's quite simple. And beyond that, that then leads to how you push towards collectability, engaging with your fans, and building those bonds with the viewer or the player base through that funnel, through that lens of legendary creature. So alternate arts of those creatures, branding merchandise around those creatures. Hell, in the future, I could even imagine a place where we eventually get a TV show Maybe. That's a whole video that I need to make. And instead of focusing on Chandra or other Planeswalkers, they focus on legendary creatures. Jehoira, Sigarda, Avacyn, they're bad examples. Some of the, like, King Kenrith is a popular commander, but he's dead now. Either way, they could bring him back for a show. Either way, legendary creatures would be a better touch point because people are more likely to play with them. More people are going to recognize those characters from being on their battlefield than they are Planeswalkers. Let's be real. People recognize Golos and Kenrith and stuff like that from Commander way more than they recognize Jace or Chandra. Jace and Chandra only get that bump from being at the front of the Magic storyline and the front of marketing, and they're going to be pulling back from that a little bit with the coming sets, especially as we see non-Planeswalker characters move between planes. Hell, desparking this, as some people said, cynically allows people to play her as their commander, and thus is a much better way of engaging with the audience that wants more commanders. Magic is predominantly commander now, whether you like it or not, and it affects Magic in ways that reach far beyond just the tabletop space and gameplay. So that's why I wanted to make this video. I find it fascinating that Planeswalkers were an invention to give people personas to attach to, characters to relate to, characters to main in some ways. If you're a red burn mage, you might associate with Chandra, but now you're more likely to associate with, I don't know, associating with Torbrand or Perforos or Neheb, red commanders that you play with on a weekly basis, where Chandra sees virtually no play at the tabletop at your local game store because everyone's playing Commander. So it's fascinating to me, really fascinating, that Magic is having another shift towards legendary characters again, which was a thing they had prior to Planeswalkers. There's probably a conversation at some point amongst not only people at a board level on how do we market the game, but the creatives behind the game on how do we create a thing that people can relate to more. And weirdly, through the organic creation of a fan-created format that got adopted by the main game via Commander, they now have that with legendary creatures. People now have associations to their commanders in the same way that we have to League of Legends characters or Street Fighter characters. That is what legendary creatures bring to Magic through a format where you get to main them and play them as your leading character in your deck. So Planeswalkers are going away, or being reduced, should I say. They're not gone forever, and I'm glad they're not, because they've become such a big part of the game now. I'll be sad to see them go in a weird way. But seeing them reduced and seeing a focus on legendary characters moving through the planes, it's just wholly positive for me, and a really interesting shift in how Magic markets itself to both the franchise player like myself and the new players coming to the game. Anyway, I hope you found that at least mildly interesting and had some news in there. Only one Planeswalker per set? Hallelujah, we don't get a lot of shit walkers every set now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, if you want to check out Whatnot, there's a link in the description below. I'm streaming at least twice a month. Come get involved, giving away stuff, selling stuff. Get involved with that. I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now. Don't know why I blew a kiss. I don't think I've ever closed a video with a blown kiss, but you can catch it at home now, push it to your chest, and, well, the video's over now.